How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are in the office doing like a little review, overview kind of video for you guys. It is extremely hot out today. I was hoping to do a little bit of driving, thinking of some driving ideas, and I said, well, if I can't go driving, I can make a video about driving, or at least your driving experience. So besides OEM, I am on my 7th setup exhaust-wise. I've had different mufflers, I've had variations of mid-pipes, I've had a couple different headers. So I've compiled these videos for you guys to help you decide on whether or not you want an exhaust for your NC Miata, and hopefully help you decide which one you ultimately purchase. So in this video, we're gonna take a look at some sound clips that I have on my YouTube channel. So if you are curious, go down below and hit subscribe, and you can follow along with all the future exhaust videos and check out all the past ones, but they're all gonna be in this video, so stay tuned. So back when I picked this car up and started to modify it, one of the first things that I wanted to do is pick up a muffler. As most of you guys do, you want a little bit of a different sound. You don't know if you're ready to jump into anything too crazy, and that's exactly what happened to me. This is a very old clip from 8 years ago, and it's a short one, but my very first exhaust setup for the NC Miata was a RoadsterSport single muffler. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do a quick description. We will listen to the sound clips, and then we'll do a little wrap up on each exhaust setup. So let's go ahead, check out the clip. So the RoadsterSport Race Single was a very light muffler. It was pretty reasonably priced. I got mine used. At the time, I think I got it for like 150 bucks, something like that. And I was running the OEM exhaust manifold and the OEM resonated and catted mid pipe. In all honesty, this was a great setup. If you have a totally stock NC and you just want a little bit of sound, this is a really good option for you. It had a nice deep tone. It wasn't too loud. It wasn't too drony. I actually got this muffler on and then took it for a 750-mile road trip pretty much immediately after with my wife, and it was totally fine. Outside of the rear parcel tray rattling, there is a video for that if you need to find it. But yeah, it was a really good muffler. I liked it. It looked cool. A lot of people don't like the single exit exhaust, and I totally understand that. But the sound that you get, I mean, you're not gonna be worried about what the car looks like when you're in the car driving it, enjoying the experience. It had a nice deep tone, and it sounded really good for a stock Miata. I mean, basically one of those things that a stock sports car should sound like from factory. That it was just good. I really liked it. Obviously my car's heavily modified since that video, but like I said, if you do have a stock NC Miata, the RoadsterSport Race Single would be great from you, and that is from Goodwin Racing. And so after that, I decided to really dive into modifications exhaust wise, and I picked up a OBX header and an OBX mid pipe that was non-resonated and non-catless. The header was also catless, so it was basically straight piped with that little RoadsterSport single back there as the muffler, and probably my second least favorite setup that I had. Oh my God. This thing was almost unbearable to drive to work. If you're commuting, you won't like it. It's incredibly loud, it's incredibly boomy. Every time you let off the gas, it would just backfire really loudly. It scared the kids in the neighborhood. No joke, it was that loud. It sounded really cool, but if your Miata's not like super modified and you're not like racing, drifting, anything like that, it's gonna be way too much for you. And this thing is loud. Woo! The exhaust setup was incredibly cheap. I picked up that muffler for about 120 bucks, and then I picked up the OBX mid pipe and header used for about 200. I think they're relatively cheap still. They're not the best quality. I had luck with it for a long time, and the header did what it needed to do. I had to make some modifications to the mid pipe later, but this exhaust setup was just, it was a lot. I will say that it was a lot. That exhaust setup didn't last for too long because I had to make modifications to it. Like I said, in order to pass inspections in Texas, you had to have no check engine light or anything like that. And you had to have a CAT in order to get that P0421 code. off of your car and pass inspections. So I went ahead and just added a high flow cat that I picked up off Amazon. I think it was like $45. I just needed it to pass inspection. And I actually still have it to this day, and it's been, I don't know, it does something. It looks like a catalytic converter at least, and it acts as one sort of. So no stinky smells or anything like that, but we threw in that catalytic converter, and honestly, it made a huge difference. It was kind of like adding another little muffler to the exhaust setup. It was still as aggressive as the original setup was, but it wasn't as loud. So if you are looking for a very racy tone, this might be a good setup for you. If you're racing, drifting, you probably would like this a little bit more. If you're not so much, if it is a weekend cruiser, I'd maybe shy away from this exhaust setup, but it did sound pretty good, to be fair, and it was still light and it looked cool. The header looked good. The tone stayed the same as the catless version, but it was far less poppy. It didn't backfire as much, which was nice because I could just let off the gas and it wouldn't like blow my eardrums out. But it is pretty aggressive. So if you're a younger guy and you have younger ears, you'll probably like it a lot. But if you are a little bit older and you're looking for a very specific sound, I would shy away from this one as well. But otherwise, I did like this setup. It was on my car for quite a while. I drove to work with it, took it on road trips, back roads, things like that. And I did like it. And after a while, as you do, you just kind of want to change things up a little bit. And I decided to go to the very other end of the spectrum as far as mufflers go, and I picked up a RoadsterSport Super Q muffler with the dual tips. A lot of you guys are running these. A lot of different people really like this muffler. It's something that I noticed a lot of people get when they want a different sound. They want to keep those dual tips, and I don't know if it's true that it stands for super quiet. It just kind of sounds like it, but what I experienced was I really did like the sound. It wasn't aggressive enough for me. At times the exhaust note could be a little tinny, a little rattly. I know a lot of people have started running the Helmholtz resonator in the midpipes. I still had the same OBX header and midpipe with the cat in these clips, but it was really a nice sound if you want something a little bit more aggressive, but you're not going to modify too much about your car. It sounded good. It wasn't too loud. I didn't like that it was a little bit tinny, especially in videos. It's hard to capture audio without like a ton of microphones or anything like that. The best I could do was what you guys have seen. But there wasn't as much of a deep tone to it, especially on startup. You couldn't really tell there was too much of a difference at all on startup. It was certainly quieter than the race single, but I wanted a little bit more volume, and that's why I switched to our next setup. So I got rid of the Super Q muffler. I kept the OBX header and the OBX midpipe, and I moved to a RoadsterSport RS2 muffler, which is pretty much the same design. There's a different kind of piping setup, and I'm sure the muffler internals were different because this was the exact tone that I wanted at the exact volume, and I really, really liked this setup. I thought it sounded probably one of the best exhaust setups that you can get, and I kept it for a long time with my 2.5 swap and used the max header as well, and the sound didn't change too much. Even if you do some engine modifications, it's not gonna throw off the sound and the tone too much. It probably sound very similar to what a 2.0 versus 2.5 would sound like. So there's not gonna be too much difference there. But I really, really, really liked the RS2. It was certainly louder than all the other setups that I had outside of when I had like the catless midpipe and things like that. But it was pretty good. I really liked the sound of it. I know a lot of people also complimented the sound, saying it sounded pretty good. It was really an enjoyable experience to have it on the car. Granted, I was at that point like pretty deep into modifying the car. It made sense for the car to sound that way. If I hadn't have found the muffler that I currently have, which we'll get into, if I hadn't have found the current muffler, I probably would have stayed with this setup and been super happy. It's not the loudest, it's louder than the Super Q. It's about the same volume and tone as the race single, but you do keep those dual exit exhaust tips. I think if you had the Super Q set up and you were a little disappointed with the tone and the volume, if you do a step up to the RS2, it'll sound similar, but it'll just be a little bit better. It'll be a little bit more aggressive, and it was a good exhaust setup. I really enjoyed that one. And then just for funsies, I had the opportunity to pick up an ISR muffler delete. It's essentially just a pipe that you bolt on to your mid pipe, and it was too much. It was just too much. The 2.5, the cams sounded awesome at idle. It sounded really cool at idle, but getting on it and letting off the gas, the drone and the booming was so loud. The backfires were really, really bad. Car wasn't as loud as it was, I think this setup would be really, really good. If you have a stock exhaust, the guy that actually picked it up, he had a totally stock exhaust. He sent me a clip with just the delete pipe, and it sounded really, really good. Granted, it was certainly louder than stock, but if you just want to hear your shifts and things like that, it's a good option. But if you have really any other modifications to your exhaust system, I would for sure shy away from this. The exhaust pipe size was really nice. It is a single exit, so maybe if you had it, you could throw a muffler in the mid pipe or throw a resonator in or something like that, and it would sound better. But for when I had it, it was it lasted all of a day. I literally installed it, took it out for a drive, and came back and put the RS2 back on. I just couldn't handle it. It was too loud. It would wake your neighbors for sure when you started it up on cold start, but sounds cool at idle. Not for me. And that leads us up to the final exhaust setup that I have right now. I've really been enjoying it. It is my favorite exhaust setup that I have had so far. But what I'm running right now is the Integral Kobe N0 muffler with our OBX midpipe still, with that high flow cat and the Goodwin header. That's the max size, the 1.8 size header. and it's still on the 2.5 engine, but like I said, everything is gonna sound fairly similar to what a 2.0 would sound like. This is a single exit exhaust, but it has like a really cool angled tip to it. And with the No Pro rear diffuser, I think it looks absolutely killer. I love it. I love the way it looks. I just love the way it sounds. It has a similar kind of vibe and tone to the Roadster Sport Race Single, but it just has a different sound to it. Okay, so definitely louder, definitely a lot deeper of a tone. It's really aggressive sounding. It pops on upshifts. It doesn't really pop when you let off the gas and like drone or anything like that. It's a very, very aggressive muffler, and it's kind of hard to find. So if you do find one for a good price, I recommend picking it up. It is my favorite muffler that I'm running right now with the exhaust setup that I had. I think if you added in a resonator or anything like that, it would probably sound even better, get rid of a little bit of the raspiness to it. I enjoy that. I like it. It sounds really cool with the cams at idle. It's not too loud. It's not unbearable, that's for sure. It definitely is louder than most of the other setups that we've gone through outside of the ISR and the Roadster Sport Race Single with catless header, catless midpipe. But I think it's a really good balance of racy sound without sounding too ricey or too Honda-ish. I am curious to hear what it's going to sound like after we do a modification that's coming soon. So like I said, go down below and hit subscribe so you don't miss that video. But honestly, with this setup, it's such a joy to drive, and I've really enjoyed the experience with the car. If you have like a Goodwin Racing mid-pipe that has a resonator or a cat, it's probably going to sound sort of similar. I don't have a resonator, but that resonator is going to control the sound just a little bit more for you if you're worried about tinniness, raspiness, or anything like that. It'll definitely help. But all the mid pipes outside of the Helmholtz resonator, they're probably gonna sound just about the same, like the Racing Beat and things like that. They're just catless mid pipes. They're just pipes. And all the pipe sizes, I haven't changed them. They're all basically the same. I think the piping size is 2.25 or 2.5. I think, don't quote me on that. But this exhaust setup that I have right now is gonna stick around for a while, at least until we do the little modification to it. Or forced induction, and then you'll want to move up piping sizes and things like that. So that's a whole nother story whenever that video happens. So let me know what your favorite exhaust setup that I've had so far, and let me know what exhaust setup you're running. Go down below in the comments and write it in. I'd love to know what everyone's running on their cars, because everyone's car is going to sound a little bit different depending on what kind of modifications you put on your car. You might have a smaller header, you might have a catted header, you might have a catted mid-pipe like me, or just uncatted, resonated. There's so many different options for the Miata now. You can get things from Cobalt, you can get things from Magnaflow, I think has an exhaust setup for our car, or muffler. Goodwin Racing, there's all the JDM brands that you can go to as well. There's so many different options for these cars. There's no way I could have fit all the sound clips that I could find in this one video. That's why I decided to focus on my car, to provide you with my experience, which is what my channel is all about, is my journey with my cars, and I'm sharing it with you guys. So go down below, write in your favorite exhaust setup that I've had so far, and then write in your favorite exhaust setup so I can check out the products that you're running as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the people who have been subscribing recently and checking out the channel. It means a lot to me to see your comments and your likes and everything like that. I appreciate all the support. Go down below and check out superautomotiveaccessories.com to pick up some custom door pull straps for your car that are made in-house, being my house by me. They're shipped from here, manufactured in my garage. It's a fun little project, and so far everyone who's picked one up has been loving it, and I appreciate all the support from the people who have. So hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.